Despite a bleak weather forecast, SpaceX took advantage of a break in cloud cover over Cape Canaveral Tuesday night to launch a Falcon 9 rocket with the Eutelsat 10B satellite, a high-throughput relay platform to beam in-flight Wi-Fi signals and maritime data services across a coverage zone from the North Atlantic to the Middle East. A Falcon 9 carrying the Eutelsat 10B satellite lifted off 9:47 p.m. Eastern from Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, Florida, during a window that had been given a probability of just 10% to be go for launch. The Falcon 9 climbed away from Pad 40 with 1.7 million pounds of thrust, and soon soared into cloud cover as it arced downrange due east from Florida's Space Coast. The rocket exceeded the speed of sound in about 1 minute, then shut down its 9 Merlin main engines about 2 minutes and 43 seconds into the mission. The first stage fired its engines several seconds longer than a typical Falcon 9 mission, consuming all of its propellant and leaving no fuel reserve for landing. Eutelsat and SpaceX agreed to expend the Falcon 9 booster, designated B1049 in SpaceX's rocket fleet, to send the Eutelsat 10B satellite into a higher orbit. The booster was not fitted with landing legs or other recovery hardware. SpaceX still planned to recover the Falcon 9's payload fairing with a ship dispatched far downrange from Cape Canaveral. The Falcon 9's second stage engine fired 2 times to inject the Eutelsat 10B spacecraft into a supersynchronous transfer orbit. The rocket deployed Eutelsat 10B as it flew over the Indian Ocean about 35.5 minutes after liftoff, an event shown live by a camera on board the Falcon 9. U.S. military tracking data showed the rocket deployed Eutelsat 10B into a highly elliptical, or oval-shaped, orbit ranging between 162 miles and 37,177 miles in altitude, 261 by 59,831 kilometers, at an inclination of 22.8 degrees to the equator. The orbit was close to pre-flight predictions. Eutelsat 10B, built by Thales Alenia Space, will unfurl solar panels and use plasma thrusters to circularize its orbit about 22,000 miles, nearly 36,000 kilometers, over the equator, where it will circle Earth in lockstep with the planet's rotation. The low-thrust but high-efficiency electric propulsion system will take several months to perform the orbit adjustments before Eutelsat 10B can enter service. The satellite is owned by the Paris-based operator Eutelsat, which confirmed early Wednesday that ground teams completed a systems checkout of the spacecraft within a few hours after launch. A spokesperson for Thales Alenia Space said the deployment of the satellite into a supersynchronous transfer orbit will shorten the time needed for it to reach its final operational geostationary orbit by about 10 days. Based on Thales Spacebus Neo satellite platform, the satellite weighed about 5.5 metric tons, or more than 12,000 pounds, at the time of launch. The expendable Falcon 9 mission Tuesday night marked the third time this month that SpaceX has disposed of a Falcon rocket booster, following the intentional disposals of a core stage on a Falcon Heavy rocket November 1 and a Falcon 9 booster on a mission November 12. The November 12 mission lofted 2 communications satellites for Intelsat, which said it paid a premium for the extra performance from the Falcon 9, resulting in the booster's disposal in the Atlantic Ocean. Once in geostationary orbit next year, Eutelsat 10B will steer itself to an operating position along the equator at 10 degrees east longitude. The satellite will add capacity for internet connectivity services for airplanes and ships across the highly trafficked North Atlantic corridor between Europe and North America. Eutelsat 10B will also provide similar services over Europe, the Mediterranean basin, and the Middle East, according to Eutelsat. Eutelsat 10B carries 2 multi-beam high throughout Ku-band payloads for aviation and maritime internet services. These 2 payloads have 116 spot beams capable of processing more than 50 GHz of bandwidth, and offering a throughput of approximately 35 gigabits per second, Eutelsat said. The satellite also hosts 2 widebeam C-band and Ku-band payloads to extend services currently provided by the aging Eutelsat 10A satellite, which launched in 2009, and is expected to reach the end of its life in 2023. The launch of Eutelsat 10B Tuesday night occurred about 6 hours after SpaceX scrubbed the launch attempt for a different Falcon 9 rocket at nearby Kennedy Space Center. The rocket was slated to launch a Dragon cargo ship to the International Space Station, but rainfall and thick clouds violated launch weather criteria.